Hello and welcome to a new stream. I think we're live. Thanks for joining me up front. 8 people. You're the best. You're definitely the best. Welcome to another stream. We're gonna have some fun today with React Native. We're gonna check out TanStack Query version 4, formerly known as I think just known as React Query. So everything you're gonna find online will be about React Query, but we're gonna get into TanStack Query. We're gonna build a React Native application, use it. We're gonna use our own little server to serve some JSON data, to update that data, and maybe we can even get, after talking about queries and mutations and all the cool stuff about TanStack Query, we might be able to get into debugging it as well. So we're gonna see that in a second. For now, first of all, welcome to everyone who's been waiting in the line for today's stream. I know, once again, it's the 1 hour earlier stream, so say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're from, where you're tuning in. I assume, once again, we got, what did we have last time? We had like Nigeria and South Africa. We had a lot of India. We probably also have Australia in here. So say hello in the chat and let me know where you're tuning in. Yes, Australia, there we go. Ooh. Welcome to today's stream, Nick. I hope in Australia it's gonna be about plus 9 hours, so 11 p.m. I guess in Australia. But that won't be a problem. So why are we doing this today? Well, I recently worked with an API and I felt like I know everything about Axios and fetch and whatnot, but turns out there's a better way to do this with React, and we're gonna do it today. So just to get a bit started, I will already start a new application with Expo. We're gonna use 49, Expo 49, so that means the command right now is npx create expo app latest. We're gonna call it storage app, and we're gonna use the template tabs at 49. So that will give us a little React Native application with a tab bar. We don't really have to get into it because there's actually a lot inside of that app, but we're gonna install TanStack Query very, very soon. So, powerful asynchronous state management for TypeScript, JavaScript, React, Solid, Vue, and Svelte. There is a tiny downside to this, to using this with React Native. So if you look into the quick start or the DevTools especially, there it is. Please note that for now the DevTools do not support React Native. If you would like to help us make the DevTools platforms agnostic, please let us know. So yeah, well, I actually found a way with a different debugging tool to do this. So we might get a quick look at how we can do this nonetheless. Besides that, I just want to mention quickly in the beginning that there is actually an in-depth course inside Galaxies. So let me put it here, TanStack course. Gonna pin this to the top. This is a brand new course on working with APIs, authentication, and TanStack Query that I think published this week on Galaxies. So a link in the chat. It's of course a pro course. If you want to become a pro in the live stream, you have the chance with the code livestream to get a nice discount during upgrading to your pro account. And you're gonna learn a lot about building React Native applications with a new Expo router, with authentication, and how to use TanStack Query. Now, with that out of the door, let's see. Here is our application. Gonna zoom into this a tiny bit. Let's see, zoom, gonna do this in the workspace. And for you, we're gonna do again 5 because you're the special live stream. Now, if you check out the documentation, you can start by installing, no, not the React Query DevTools. We wanna install React Query. So let's install this. And additionally, they also recommend to install the ESLint plugin, so why not? It's anyway just a development dependency. So once we get this, we can just run npx expo. Actually, yeah, we might take a little step back in a second, but there won't be a problem. So I found a cool package because I want to make some API calls, and whenever you want to test an API, you can look out like there's fake store API or JSON placeholder and all that stuff. But the problem with those APIs is always you can't change the data. And if I want to use or try something, I also want to update and delete the data. So I found something pretty cool. I mean, it's honestly super easy, but it's still cool. Meanwhile, I'm going to open my iOS project. And I'm going to see if I can find this somewhere. No, I can't. Well, no problem. Let's just make a new folder. I'm just going to make a new folder API in here. Do I really want to do it like this? I don't know, but we're gonna see. So this is called Json server. This is super easy. So get a full fake REST API with zero coding in less than 30 seconds. And honestly, it really works like that. The only thing you need to do is to create a JSON file. So we're gonna globally install this. I actually did this, and then you can create a db.json file. Let's do this. Let's create this in the API folder. No, let's call this server. Let's create a new file, db.json in here. I'm gonna put this in here. Actually, I wanna later use something different in here, but for now we can do it like this. And then we're gonna open another terminal window, and we're gonna navigate into server. We don't even have to. I mean, we can just use the command from here. So the command was JSON server watch on our file. JSON server watch on server /db.json. And now I should be able to just go here and get my posts. So this is really, really cool. Comments as well. And I could now just simply change my data in here. I actually want to do like to-dos, I think. Let's call this to-dos, and my layout gonna be, there will be an ID, there will be a text, first to do, and there will be a done flag, which I'm gonna set to false here. So updating it, then I will go to to-dos, and I'm gonna see my first to-do. And just like that, we can now add more data. For faking this, of course, I should use a second ID, but voila, this is our API. So definitely 30 seconds API JSON server. I highly recommend this package. Now that we got our API configured, we can get into the app. Hey, Blind Ray, welcome back. Happy to see you. I already knew that we're not gonna have like 50 people in the house today, but I'm still happy for the 12 tuning in. So I hope you're having a good afternoon, evening, morning. Actually, I was thinking maybe we can at one point have an earlier stream, so the people from like Australia and stuff have a better chance of tuning in live, because I know it's gonna be late for you. So maybe in the future I'm gonna do something different. Okay, now we got the server ready. Let's see how we can use TanStack Query in our app. For that, we go to the quick start, and we first of all have to wrap our application with the query client provider. So as we're using the new Expo router, the file-based routing, we have to do it in the layout file here. Don't worry about all the other stuff in here. We actually don't really need this. In fact, I will get rid of a few things. So I don't really need the modal. Yeah, we're gonna keep the tabs. I don't really need the theme provider. I mean, we can keep it. Yeah, why not? Let's just keep it. But we're gonna wrap the query client around the stack. So in order to use this, I'm gonna update the import, and then we will have to create a new query client. That's not hard. If you check out the documentation, it's actually just one line. So let's put this up here. New query client. Oh, that was the wrong key. Nick would love an AWS Amplify React Native tutorial. Yeah, that sounds really good. I know that Vadim from Not Just Dev is really the AWS Amplify guy. I honestly haven't really worked with AWS Amplify in years, but I'd definitely like to check it out, simply because I've used AppWrite, Supabase, Firebase, all the different backends, and I think getting into AWS Amplify would make sense. Have you used it, Nick? Please let me know in the chat, or if anyone else has experience with AWS Amplify. I'd love to know. It's really a good native platform. I heard good things about it, but I don't know how good it actually is. So coming back to our TanStack example, we got the query client now wrapped around our app, which means we can use the functionality in the app. We'll just do this in the index page. So here's our tab 1. I'm just gonna do something. So, oh yeah, if I not put this into a text, React Native will be mad. But here we go. This is definitely our page we can work on. So let's see. If we want to query data with TanStack Query, we still need to implement the actual fetch, axios, or whatever call. But then we're gonna pass this to TanStack Query, and it will be managed internally and will be cached, and we can easily get back the data. We can easily update the internal cache. So that's the whole thing we want to implement, basically. So that means in order to create those queries, we have to do something that queries our API. So let's create a new folder. I'm going to create a new file at api/todos.ts. And in here, we can first of all get the API URL. So yes, we're doing this with a fake endpoint, but nonetheless, we can try and use it as if this was real. So let's do expo public API URL. So we're using the new expo environment. And that should be HTTP localhost, and I think 3K was it. No, Copilot, I don't want the rest. With that, we should be able to access this from here. So let's see, const API URL equals process environment dot API URL. Yeah, we don't need the fallback. Ray says, I have AWS. You got it? Like you got it locally installed AWS, or you have used AWS? What's your experience? Nick, yeah, I'm using it for IoT device monitoring. Oh, that sounds interesting as well. By the way, I just got a heart rate monitor, which is using, I think, Bluetooth. I hope Bluetooth Low Energy, which can connect to my Nike running app, or Adidas, Nike, Adidas, I don't know. Anyway, I've been thinking about doing a little tutorial about connecting to that heart rate monitor. Does that sound interesting? Has anyone managed to get data from a Bluetooth device? I think this could be really interesting. I have never seen this anywhere else. And just today, during my morning run, I noticed that I was always waiting for a device. I finally have one, so maybe I can finally do something about it. Okay, I also want an interface for my cool fake data, which is at to-dos. So let's copy this and let's use the Visual Studio Code JSON to TS convert from clipboard. So this nicely created my interface. And now I'm gonna do, actually, yes, thank you, Copilot, that was pretty good. Let's see. Fetch API URL / to-dos, await, yeah, well, we can do this in one line. So this would be the standard call that you would do to get the to-dos from your API. And we can directly do this. Let's see this in action. In the tab 1 screen, let's say we're gonna use effect, tab 1 screen, and then we're gonna, what was it? Get to-dos. To-dos equals, oh, come on. Yeah, get to-dos. Then let's log out the data. Okay, so if we do it just like this, we can open our debugging tools somewhere here. Let's press J. I really like the latest version of Expo. And if I now refresh the application, we should see tab 1 screen and undefined. Okay, not a big problem. Let's see. Fetch API. Oh yeah, we should probably reload. because otherwise it's not picking up your environment. So if you're changing something in the environment, make sure you're updating the project, and then it says load env expo public API URL, and then it should work a lot better. Nonetheless, where's my debugging? This is not my debugging. This is not my debugging. Debugging is nowhere to be found. Did I kill the server? No, I didn't. Okay, let's see again. So tab 1 screen undefined. Great. This is great. What's my response? What am I doing wrong? It is actually it is making the call here. I think we don't need to await in here. We can just await it once, shouldn't we? API HTTP localhost 3k/todos looks fine to me. Looks fine to me. Where did Simon go wrong? HTTP localhost 3k API URL read. What is my response like? It is an asynchronous function. I should have just followed what Copilot is saying. Equals response.json. Where did I go wrong along the way? Oh, there was a problem sending a log message. Well, at least I can see a logging object now in my logs. So let's reload one more time. There was a problem sending a log message. That is interesting. So I feel like we're doing this stuff right. Await response, Jason. Yes. Thank you. Come again. Here we go. Finally, the log we were all waiting for. So I can't remember exactly why I wanted to do this. But nonetheless, we can see that the API call is working out. So thank you, Omar, and hello from to Ghana. This is the basic way how you can do it. You can make your API calls. You can do it like this. You can use fetch, or you can use Axios, whatever you prefer. But this is actually not the best way today. So now let's add TanStack Query and see how we can transform this. So we get started by defining our to-dos query. So we're gonna say to-dos query equals use query. So there's a hook we can use. Then we're gonna add, actually what Copilot is giving you or telling you is usually wrong, because this is not the latest version of TanStack Query. So instead we have an object in here, and the first thing is a query key, but the query key is actually an array. Because you could have something like to-dos, and then you could have like one. So that means you have different caching keys in here that you could use and construct. And the second thing you need is the query function. And to the query function, I will just pass my get to-dos. By the way, you can also use add here if you on the latest versions of Expo. That will work just fine as well. Now, if you get it like this, we can remove the use effect. And we can now use different states of the to-dos query. So if the to-dos query is loading, we can show a little, let's say we show an, what's it called? Activity indicator. Thank you. Or null. Or if there's an error, we could show something like couldn't load to-dos. Sad smiley. Now we should see, I should probably fake this now. How can we make this slower? How can we make this slower? I could of course return a new promise and then sleep for a time. Would that work? That would look so ugly. I think I had a package before. Yeah, here. Sleep promise, the ultimate Packages I thought I would never need. Sleep promise. Let's install this just for the fun. Install sleep promise, import sleep from sleep promise. And then I want to sleep for 2 seconds before I do anything in this function. Will this work? I think we have a chance that it works. Let's see. Refreshing this, no apps connected. Well, I would say different, but nonetheless. Yes, there's the loading indicator, and then it's gone. So it's been loading the data for 2 seconds. It also centered the content, so I probably don't want this. Isn't there like a size thing? Yeah, let's do it again. So now you should probably see it even better. So there's the loading spinner for 2 seconds, and then it's gone. Also, if I would kill the API and do the same thing, we should see that it loads and then shows the error afterwards. Let's see, it's loading, it's actually loading long. I think it's doing some retries internally, which is, by the way, also something you can set. And then, is it erroring? This, yes, couldn't load to-dos. Actually, if you want this faster, I think Fetch is not really great at handling errors, so you might have to use Axios. I usually also prefer Axios, but I wanted to keep this example really easy. So that means we can show the activity indicator while we're loading. Actually, we're gonna keep align items in here and remove justify content. Okay, that's cooler. Yeah, well, we could probably use a bit of like padding horizontal. Let's get to this. Okay. All right, now how can we actually get the data? Well, we need to get the data from our to-dos query. We can do this either with is success, or we can also just get like to-dos query dot data. Can we just do, okay, that sounds interesting, Copilot. I don't think this will work. Let's do the traditional way. We're gonna show a flat list. I always feel like flat list is actually pretty easy to implement. So flat list gets data, which would be to-dos query. We have a render item function, and we might have a key extractor, but we probably don't even need one. So now I should see some data if my API is running, and also I'm gonna remove this ugly sleep. So we don't really want to sleep. We want instant results in here. Also, is the API running? Yes, it is. Okay, can we please make sure that Expo and the simulator are friends again? That would be really nice. So if it's just reloading on save, that would be really, really nice. 18 people! Looks like the React Native community is finally awake. Welcome to the stream. We're talking about TanStack Query today. Good morning, Robschill. Hallo, wie geht's from Amsterdam? That is a nice mix of German, English, and you're from the Netherlands. I think I don't know any words from the Netherlands. Anyway, hello, Rob. Not too far away from me, the Netherlands. Münster, Germany. Thank you again, Omar and Queasy. So our app should at some point render my data if it's loading correctly, but I feel like don't see anything. Not a big deal, not a big deal. Eventually we're gonna figure this out because we have already seen the data. So just making sure. By the way, the cool thing about this is, I'm coming back to this all the time, is that we can also nicely oh, sorry, that was the wrong key. Nicely inspect the network calls. So we're definitely getting the data in here. So that means our to-dos query works. Only our render item does not seem to work correctly. Yeah, because it's not text, but was it? It actually is text. But did I say it's easy to implement the flat list? That was a joke. Let's do some row for it, and then we get also the right typings. Can be sure that it works. So list render item type to do Didn't I set up an interface for to-do? Oh yeah, the interface is to-do, not to-dos, my bad. So then I can also add the import for to-do. We want more Angular. Yeah, more Angular is of course coming at some point. I try to balance both because I've done so much Angular over the years. Yes, it's coming soon, my friend. Just wait for it. Just wait for it. Export interface to do. So now we got this. Thank you, Nick. I still need to implement some specials for the community. Yeah. A nice reminder, Nick. Just do this every time, and then I get reminded about setting up some kind of special perks for the community. So is loading, is error, we got that. Now we just need our data, and we should actually implement the key extractor as well. So key extractor would be item dot id to string, because the ID is, I think, a number that usually makes a flat list unhappy. Hey from Brazil, hey Fernando, welcome tuning in. Hey Khalil, you need a Simon emoji. Yeah, we definitely need a Simon emoji. How do we do this? We should probably use the render item function now, otherwise it's not making any sense. Okay, finally we got progress. Thanks for subscribing. Do React Native 2023 ecosystem, Malek. What exactly do you mean by that? A video? What should be like the content? By the way, oh, was I the whole time in chat mode? Did I just implement all the whole time? No, I wasn't. I wasn't like this. One thing, I had a cool call yesterday or the days before as well regarding galaxies, and I think the React Native or the whole ecosystem is just mysterious to people, or let's say at least the React Native ecosystem, because people just keep telling me that it's complicated to get started. Yes, there are the Expo docs and maybe even the React Native docs, but everything else, it's just, there's so much. Everyone's telling you something different about folder structure, about app architecture, about hooks, classes, functional components, Expo or not Expo, React Native CLI, not CLI. We don't even talk about UI libraries and components. There are tons more. So I feel like the whole ecosystem, it's great. There are many options, but maybe there are too many options. Just my 2 cents on this. Coming from Angular, it feels like to some degree it's just a bit too much. Nonetheless, we're going to continue with our TanStack Query because that is actually something you definitely want to use. So I'm going to return a view here, and in the view I'm going to wrap everything inside, let's say, a touchable opacity. On press I'm going to do something. Close this. Touchable opacity can be added, and I will also check if the item is done. I want to show a little icon, so let's do, I think we did something like this before. Yeah, basically like this. And in the other case, if the item is not done, we're gonna do ionicons. Yep, that sounds good. So then we have the text in here. Oh, we're not rendering anything anymore. That's good. Just render this, my friend. So here we go. Now we just need some styles to make this work. Styles dot, let's call this to-do container, and I think I had something for this before. So for our to-do container, I think we got this in the Firebase tutorial. Styles. Yes, my bad. Okay, well, not perfect yet, but we're gonna figure that out. To-do container. Should we do a reload? Actually, it should be aligned in a row. I assume I didn't do it correctly. This will also get styles to do. We just want to make sure that we can align this in one row. So the to do will get the flex layout for a row. And then we got these things in a row. Perfect. Now we can also easily add something else to the end of it if we want to. Or we can style the to-do text to take up all the space. So if we give it a flex of 1 and then use it for the text, styles.to-do text, it will expand completely. Then we can just easily add, after the touchable opacity, another icon. So I'm gonna make ionicons trash, and on press this will also call some functions. So we can define those functions actually in here. We can just define const delete to do. This will do something. And then we have toggle done. So the simple delete and update functions. And we're gonna see how to use this with TanStack in a second. So we're gonna connect this now in here. On press I wanna toggle done, and on press I want to delete the to do. Let's use the color red in here. I think that looks okay. Looks not too bad. So if I click here, I could update and toggle it, and if I click here, I should be able to delete it. Oh, and we probably want to add some data. Let's do this as well. In our view down here, let's add another view. This one needs also some styling, so styles.form. Not really a super special form, but it's a form nonetheless. That form should also have a flex layout with a row. And then we can just put in simple text input. That should actually be enough. So text input, placeholder, add to do. That was already correct. We probably need some state. Let's use some state. Const. You can't figure that one out. To do. Set to do. Oh, come on, I don't use react.useState. I'm cool. So this is the to do. We're gonna attach the unchanged text of the text input to set to do. So then we're gonna set our to do, and the value will also come from our to do. Tamagui tutorial one day. Oh yes, definitely. That is on my list. I actually wanted to check out Tamagui this week. But I think I won't find the time for that. Tamagui is very high up on my list. Title. Oh, that was an interesting one. Title. Add and on press. Okay, what do we want to do on press? We want to add a new to do. We don't have a function for that yet, I think. Okay, so I think we're finally got most of the stuff figured out for the view. Only thing is that this doesn't really look great yet. So we got flex direction row, we got the centered items, only the text, this one should have a bit better styling. Styles.input, let's define quick input styling. Yes, exactly, the input should use the whole space, but it should also have a bit different height and border, and then we just got it like this. Okay, took us 30 minutes to build everything that we need, but now we can completely use the TanStack in a real world example. So we have the query, which is already automatically done because we're just using to-do's query.data in our view, and we're using is loading and error as well, so we can nicely access those states. Let's see how we can add data, which is done by queries. So if you check out the documentation, you want to really see real quickly. So queries are the basics with a query key and a query function. And with mutations, we can now change our data. So a mutation looks almost the same. It's using the use mutation hook. So let's try and set up our first mutation to, let's say, to actually add data. So I'm going to call this add mutation. I'll probably even dive deeper into this. This is going to use the use mutation hook. And then we have the mutation function, which I think we haven't added yet, right? So let me bring this in because this is actually quite boring. I prepared a few functions here. They're just making fetch calls. So we got create to do, which creates a to do using fetch. We got update to do, which updates one to do by its ID. And we have delete and even get to do by ID. All of that would work with a fake API. So to make the call or make the mutation, we will now use the create to do call from our API. And what we also want to implement is an on success block. So you can run some code when this mutation is successful. I will just run, let's just log to the console. I think the first one of on success is the data, yeah. Let's see, success. I'm gonna do it like this. And now we will call the add mutation in our add to do, so that was attached to the button. And you just call it like this, add mutation, mutate, and then the value you want to pass to your mutation function. That is really the critical part here. This line, add mutation, mutate, which will pass to the create to do the selected or the new value of our to do, which is just like the to do name in this case. Let's see. This is a lot, so let's open our debugging tools on the side. I think I had this open before. Also, we're gonna inspect or keep an eye on the networked tabs. And then let's reload here. Okay. Okay, what is happening? I actually don't know what's happening. Not connected, failed to success, done, false, text. Okay, this is our log from success. We have the data. It's not showing in our view, as you can see. We only got first to do and second to do. And if we now reload, by the way, we should see it, because that's, by the way, the cool thing about this server. In our fake server, this actually updated our JSON file. So it just added this entry here. We now got 3 entries, which is pretty cool, by the way. But this function itself, the mutation itself, does not change the cached data. You can now manually change this if you want to. For example, what you could do now is we can now access our query client. So let's do this. Cons query client equals use query client. And then we can use the query client in the success of the mutation here. And we can invalidate all the queries for to-dos. And again, Copilot will get this wrong. So you need an object with query key, and then the key we just had up here. What this does is quite interesting. Maybe we are now finally able to get the debugging for this going on. Let's see. So okay, we see all the success. The only thing we don't see in here is I would really love to see my network traffic, because that would be the cool thing. We see all the dones, we see that it's writing the data, but I would really like to see the network request. I don't know why it's not showing up. It would be nice if just all the tools would work sometimes. That would be so cool. Why am I not seeing the network calls in here? Well. Yeah, no apps connected, sending reload. Yes, I know your game. Probably just have too many of those loggers open. Is it this one? Nah, not really. But anyway, we are now able with add mutation to add data. And by invalidating the queries, we see the first cool thing about TanStack Query, which is that we don't have to say like, oh, I have this to-dos array locally and now I need to make my load to-dos call again. No. By just invalidating the queries, the to-dos query will run again because it's invalid, and internally TanStack Query is managing this and says, hey, in that case we should probably update this. So especially if you're using this in other places, it makes the whole management of your data in your application so much better. Let's do a few more mutations. We should implement the update mutation, or maybe we should first implement the delete mutation. So we're not crowding our list. Use mutation. This will use delete to do, and on success, I'm gonna pretty much, well, let's for now do the same thing like before. So it's making another call. My TV home says I read about it. I think there is problem with it. That's a pity because it used to work. The network debugging really used to work quite nicely. Do you know why it's broken? It was really good. Let's just try and reload it again. Maybe that makes things better. Opening on iPhone 14 Pro, yeah, this is this one. Can you, no apps connected. I mean, just open it here. And then I want my debugger. I just want my debugger and see the network calls. Why is that so hard? It should be easier. Okay, we see calls. Nice. We see calls. So what we see is this one was for adding. It automatically triggered this one for getting the data. So this was a get to to-dos. This was a post to to-dos. Nice. Now I should be able to run my delete mutation. So I'll go into the delete function here of our render item, delete mutation, mutate, and passing in the right data. So you need to be a bit careful what you need to pass to the function. So if you have your definition with like a to-do object, or for create, I'm just passing in a string. For delete, I'm just passing in an ID. So that is the value you're passing in. It's basically passing through in the mutate to the mutate function and then to your, which is your function. So again, delete should invalidate the queries. And let's see, let's clear this. Yes, so we're deleting to-do number 3 and automatically we see the new get request. And this happens now all the time. Now, if you are smart, what you could do is you could actually manually update your query client. So that means you don't have to make the whole get request again. You can do this manually if you want to. Before we do that, let's quickly add our thanks for subscribing. You're very welcome. Let's add our update mutation here. And this one will call update to do. Let's for now say we do the same stuff like we did before. And then we put this in here, update mutation. Mutate, we're gonna use everything from item and we toggle done. Yeah, that sounds actually pretty good. So let's see. Yes, it seems to work. Again, this will, by the way, really update the data in our thing here. So we got true, we got false, we got all the stuff in here. I'm a big fan of the JSON server. Question was, what is the benefit of using the use mutation hook? Why not just calling query client invalidate in the click function? You mean why I'm doing it on success? I mean, I can control when I want to invalidate the queries. You can optimistically just immediately, but you should actually wait. Like if you're adding some data, you need to wait until that call, that promise is fulfilled, which means on success runs, and then you can do something. So if I just say, for example, in my add data, where's my add data? If I just call this line and immediately afterwards call invalidate queries on the query client, yes, we do make a call to get the new to-dos, but eventually the first mutation is not even finished. So we should definitely wait for this. By the way, there's more. Besides on success, there's also on mutate, on error, on settled. So there are different states that you can try where you can like get the event and then handle this. For example, you could show an error if there was an error in one of your mutations. That will work as well. Where did we jump off into this? I can update, I can delete. Oh yeah, we wanted to do this in a different way because we're right now invalidating everything, and it's probably not the best idea all the time. So instead of having it look like this, we could also implement our own function now. So let's do this for fun. I'm gonna call this one update query client, and the update query client will get an updated to do, and then we're gonna do something. Let's see. So in here we can directly access the query client, and we can call set. We really call set query data. Now we need to be careful once again. So in here, first thing is the query key, which is to-dos. Then I don't want this. No, I don't want this right now, Copilot. Let me just do it manually. Second one is the updater. So let's say we got any data in here. And now we can manually go through that data and update our cache data, which is pretty cool because we got the updated to do, which is eventually past this. So let's say in our update mutation, on success, I'm not doing this. On success, I will actually call update query client. Oh yeah, I need to define this before update mutation. And now I can go through this. So return data.map. Data.map. Okay, let's see if Copilot is giving us the right code. We're going through all the to-dos. And if that to-do ID is equal to the updated to-do ID, then I will return the updated to-do. Otherwise, yes, basically that's true, but we can actually do this in one line. So let's see. We can just say if to-do equals updated to-do, then we display, yes, this. Okay, now let's inspect the network tab again. So if I now update something, I just update. So we've basically eliminated one get call after every update call. This is, or can be, really important. I mean, in our case, it's 50 bytes, but usually you're loading a lot more data. And so being smart about what you do and how you invalidate your queries can be really important for your application and the performance of your application. Fernando, I mean, I could using async function and call invalidate after a success request using try catch. Yeah, of course you can, but if you want to handle all of that yourself and all the internal states, then sure, you can do all of that. But with TanStack Query, they are just doing this all internally. They're just, everything is behind those query keys, and you can manage how that works on different pages, on different screens. Everything is just correctly managed with the state. And I think this is a lot, like, there's a reason why people really like this. It was React Query before, and most people used it, and now with TanStack Query version 4, I think this works epic. It also, by the way, works for GraphQL. For React Native, there are also a few things you can even implement, so refetch on app focus or online status management, which would be interesting as well. But those here are the basics. So use query to get the data, and mutations to change the data, update, delete, and then handling the cache. On top of that, there's, by the way, one thing you can as well do, which is prefetch queries. I think this is pretty interesting as well. For example, you maybe have like a list of, okay, this is interesting. Copilot already knows what I'm talking about. So let's say I want to prefetch a query for to-dos for the second to-do. Do we have a second to-do? Yeah, we have, like, this one is called second to-do. So let's say I want to prefetch that. Let's say you have a list of articles and maybe you're like prefetching the first 3, so when people click on it, the data will immediately be there. You can implement some cool smart stuff with prefetch, even like on hover. If you're on the web, you could prefetch a query for something before the user actually clicks it, if it's just the user hovering over it. On mobile for React Native, I mean, it's not really that helpful. Let's see. Query client prefetch query. We're gonna pass an object in here, I think. Query key. Our to-do number 2. I want to prefetch that one, and the query function for that would be get to do by ID. I would pass in 2. Actually, we should do it like this, I think. Yes. So what I see, or what I think I should see now, is a call for all to-dos when the page reloads, but one specific call to the second one. And there it is. So it's making this one call under the hood. And if we would observe the cache data, we would see that there's something stored for to-dos now, and there's something stored for to-dos number 2, because that's the query key we used in here. So this is prefetching, another super interesting thing that you can use with TanStack Query version 4. Why is this here all the time? There's also more, like you can do retries, but it's also doing this smart usually already. You can have paginated queries or infinite queries, but they're not really a whole lot different. Prefetching is really one additional thing, or invalidation, but most of the stuff is based on what we've seen so far. So before this stream is over, I would really like to show you how you can debug this, because the docs just like leave you hanging here that you're for React Native basically lost and there's no way to debug this. Or I think they're saying something, yeah, there's a third-party Flipper plugin, which didn't really work for me because I was using Expo and I would have to use like a dev version. So instead I tried to use Reactotron. And that honestly worked pretty well. Maybe I can still figure out how I actually set this up. So we're gonna have to create a new file at the top with this stuff inside, query client. Let's quickly do this together because this is fun and a nice way to debug your apps. So query client.ts. We're gonna do basically the same stuff like we did before. We just need to be careful here because the stuff is now coming from TanStack Query. So most of the examples, again, that you will find online will use React Query, which is version 3. Then we need another file called Reactotron.ts. And in here we're also using Reactotron React Native. So let's install this. I'm gonna kill npx for a moment. npm install Reactotron React Native and React Query. So there was a tiny problem. Again, this is version 3. This is not TanStack Query. When I tried to use it, it wasn't updated for that yet. So I also had to change their code they gave me here because I'm using TypeScript. So I had to put in as any here because new versions and a bit different. But mostly this is still the same stuff. Now, with all of that in place, we can head over to our app layout file. And in here we need to change a few things. So first of all, up here we can say if we're in the dev environment, I'm gonna import Reactotron. This will complain. So let's go to the TS config and fix that. We just have to add module and we're gonna use ES next. Okay, save that, and then it's happy in here as well. And now we're gonna import our query client. So instead of creating it right in here, we just import it from the file that we did before. And then we pass it to the query client provider here. No big changes. But now Reactotron will be initialized correctly. And normally we should see something. So to test things out, let's go into the index file here. Do we have the use effect? Yes, we do. So let's add a simple log. Reactotron log Simon was here. Yeah, there's a strange issue here. I think we need to use it like this. It looks horrible. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so we got that as well. Now let's bring Expo again. So let's see. Gonna open this up for iOS, and if we're lucky, how do we open this? Reactotron. So I also installed Reactotron on my Mac. Here's the app. What was the trick to connect my application to Reactotron? What was the trick? I think there was no trick. I think it just... Yes! Nice. Yeah, we made that work. So here are... I was here, React Native. That looks mostly good, but I'm not 100% convinced that it works. Yes, it does. So we can see if we do an update, if we add something here, we get these observer options. And in here, we can now find the query key, to-dos. We can find, where's the data? Should be in state data. Yes, here's the data. Can we zoom into this? Oh, nice. I can even show you this without you getting your eyes hurt. So this is it. You can now inspect this with Reactotron and see your state being updated. You can inspect the API responses from here. So Reactotron in general is pretty cool. Might do another video on this. But most importantly, we now have the chance to actually see what's going on with TanStack Query. We can see, okay, the query key 2. We got the initial state, and then we got the other state. We got the data, we got update count, and tons of data that you might or might not need. But nonetheless, it's good to know about the different tools that you can use in order to debug this, because what's going on with TanStack Query is mostly behind the scenes. So it's using caching under the hood that you don't really see. You might see this well on the web with different tools, but for React Native, it's always a bit challenging. But with Reactotron and the little trick that I've shown you, so if this was too fast, just the upload, the stream will be live afterwards. You can just go back. We just added like 2 files to the top of our project. In one, we defined the query client. Here we defined how Reactotron is using that query client manager on the hood, under the hood. No, getting strange here. And then we can see this as well. So I really hope that was a nice introduction, a quick introduction for you to TanStack Query version 4. Again, there's an in-depth course in Galaxies, which is completely, it's fresh out of the oven. It's super hot. About using also authentication under the hood and building cool UIs and using JWTs and Expo and whatnot. So if you're really interested in upgrading your API game with React Native to the next level, check this out, galaxies.dev. And under Learn, you're going to find that course alongside all the other courses that lately arrived, and more will come pretty soon. I'm already working on another SQLite course. I have a push notifications course planned, and finally, the member count of Galaxies is growing. So July has been really great for Galaxies. I can finally feel that React Native developers are coming to it and accepting it as the platform to learn React Native, and I hope you will enjoy it as well. So if you're into React Native, check out galaxies.dev. Quick look at the chat. Ray, that's great. Thank you. Elfie, greetings from Onisha. Thank you for tuning in. Hope to catch you next week again. Roberto, we recommend waiting before upgrading to SDK 49 if debugging in Expo Go for Android is an important part of your workflow. Roberto, you sound like you're from the Expo team. I don't know every person from the Expo team, but if you're from Expo, thank you for tuning in and providing help to the people in this live stream. So I will now finish my day and head into some nice tennis practice. It's no great weather in Germany, but nonetheless, it should be fine. Next Tuesday, new tutorial. Make sure you're subscribed. As always, check out Galaxy's code. Live stream can be used to get a nice discount when you go for a pro account. And I'm gonna catch you next Thursday. So Until then, as always, Nick is looking forward to Tamagui, and Ray's going to bed, and I'm going to tennis. So until then, happy code.